Hello and welcome to the first video in a three-part series, and the challenge that I'm going to be sharing with you is to learn the alphabet in sign language. And the reason that I think this is a really good challenge is, particularly at a time like now, hopefully you're all doing very well and everybody's fantastic, but it might have sort of shed a light, the way that we've had to change the way we live at the moment, it might have shed a light of how important it is for our mental well-being and our happiness levels to be able to communicate with one another. And now everything's kind of significantly changed. It's not like what it was. You can't just go and speak to a friend, everything has to be through a device. So all of our communication channels has totally changed since the lockdown. And I think that's something that links quite nicely to sign language, because I know that for deaf people, for the few that I know, it can be really frustrating living in a world where everyone's kind of communicating in this way that you cannot access. It can feel really frustrating and it can be really bad for your mental well-being. And so at a time like now, I think it's really important that we branch out our communication skills and learn a new way to communicate, so that if you ever were lucky enough to come across someone who is deaf or who signs, you would be able to communicate with them. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to learn the alphabet, and we are learning the alphabet in British Sign Language. There is, confusingly, a different sign language for each country. So we're doing British Sign Language, and that is the alphabet is used throughout all of Britain, so you don't need to worry about influences. But sometimes in sign language, different words from different parts of England come across totally differently. So for example, purple down south is purple, but purple in London is purple. So they're totally different. So if you do ever sort of start feeling really good about your signing and you try and sign with people and then they don't understand what you're doing, that happened to me quite a lot. So don't worry, it's because signs do shift slightly throughout England, but the alphabet is all the same. So we're going to learn the alphabet because it's a really good starting point for any language. And we're actually not going to learn it in order, which sounds like a terrible way to learn the alphabet. We will learn it in order eventually, but I'm going to show you some quick tips before we start every single letter. And the first thing you need to know is that in sign language, your writing hand, your dominant hand, is your pointing hand. So I am right-handed, so I will be pointing with my right hand. But if I was left-handed, I would point with my left hand, and I would do the signs on the other hand. Okay, the alphabet is very much on your hand, so you don't need to so you need to make sure that you have like quite a nice space and that your hands are feeling quite flexy, and you've warmed them up a little bit. I mean, it's nearly summer now. I'm holding on to that, and so the first thing you're going to do is I'm actually going to teach you the vowels, because the vowels are really easy in the alphabet. And you take your pointing hand and you use it to point, and the other hand you hold flat, and you can see that there are 5 vowels and 5 digits. So that works perfectly. We have A, E, I, O, and little finger is U. So A, E, I, O, U. All the vowels, nice and simple. The way you do this is you have your hand down like this, and you do not, this is where you have to be really careful. This is not A, that's not a sign, you're just talking nonsense, okay? You're just stretching your thumb out. So this is not A, you have to lift your thumb up and point to it, A. And same with E, you lift your finger up and point to it, E. I, O, U. Do not start this nonsense. People will be like, what are you talking about? Okay, so A, E, I, O, and U. Nice and simple. So that's one that's quite easy to learn, and it's good because then when we're doing the alphabet, you can be like, oh, I know that one because it's A, E, I, O, U. So just A, E, I, O, U. U, O, I, E, A. A, I, U, O, E. And you can try muddling them all up. But A, E, I, O, U. The other one that's quite a nice little nugget to learn is L, M, N. And again, you take your pointing hand and you hold your other hand flat, and you need to keep your fingers closed this time. And it goes like this, L, M, N, L, M, N, which is weird because it goes 1, 3, 2, which you would think it would go 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't. It goes 1, 3, and 2. Can you think why that might be? It's because an L has 1 line, an M has 3 lines, and an N has 2 lines. Okay, so it's actually quite a nice one because especially LMN, that's a really good bit of the alphabet, I think. So you can just go LMN like that. And now, even just with that, you can spell words like, what could we do? We could do lemon, L, and then E-M-O-N. You could do mum, you could do lol. I think that's probably, I can't think of any other off the top of my head. But so those are the bits that just sort of little tricks to learn. And the last one I'm going to show you is just Z, because by that point, normally when I'm teaching, people are like, oh, I can't remember the last one. So Z, we'll do it again. But Z, you put your pointing hand, you're not pointing this time, you're using the whole hand like a shark. And you have this hand again like a shark, and what you do is you point to your wrist. You can see there I'm pointing right into my wrist. That's Z. It's a bit of a weird one, so it's one that people forget anyway because it's at the end of the alphabet. But if you learn it now, you'll definitely remember. So Z. So now you can do zoo. Zoom, because that's how we're all chatting now. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So that's the end of the first one. So all we've done is just talked a little bit of a background, and then the vowels, LMN and Z. Bro.